What's going on, guys? My name is Steve. Thank you for stopping by my channel. Today we're going to be reacting to culture shock in England, or 10 things that shock Americans when they visit England for the first time. Today I am very excited. I think this may be the first day in over a week that I feel like my normal self. I actually have good energy today. Went to the dentist and got a clean bill of health for my teeth, which is awesome. No cavities or anything. Today's a good day. I'm feeling really great today, and just looking forward to doing another video. And I thought this would be a really interesting one to check out. I always love these types of videos that kind of give you a list of certain things you can expect from a certain area, and in this case, some shocks or some things that may shock me when I do visit England for the first time. And so I'm really curious about what some of these things are that may be a cultural shock to me when I do get over there for the first time. But anyways, guys, enough rambling from me. Let's go ahead and check out some of these culture shocks that I might find in England when I visit for the first time.
Hey guys, I'm Eric.
And I'm Grace. We're the Wandering Ravens.
And today we are going to tell you 10 things that were culture shock for us when we arrived here in England.
What could they be? I mean, I've learned a lot of things about England. I think the first thing to me would just be seeing all the amazing old architecture. I think that would be, although I know it exists there, I'm not used to it at all here in America, and I think it would be a cultural shock, so to speak. The amazing history, which is one of the things I absolutely look forward to exploring in England and Scotland, Wales, Ireland. The whole Isles, man, has just amazing history and beautiful architecture, castles and beautiful churches and things like that. So I think that would be one of the top things that I would be kind of shocked by. It wouldn't be a mental shock. It would just be actually, you can be a shock by something even though you are expecting it. It's just like you all of a sudden are around something and you feel it. You feel the energy difference, and that would be pretty shocking to me, I think. And I think that's the number one thing.
The first thing that shocked us when we arrived in England was just how many foreigners there are in London.
We'd always heard that London was multicultural, but just the extent of foreigners that were there was really shocking to us. And not in a bad way. It was just surprising because when we were coming to England, we're like, oh, there's probably going to be a lot of English people and we'll be hearing lots of English. But when we were in public, about 90% of the languages we were hearing around us were foreign languages and not English.
Really? Okay, I can expect that with London. I expect London is going to have it's going to be very multicultural. I expect that, but 90% of the languages you hear aren't English. That would be really shocking if that was the case. Is that really the case? If you go to London, you like 90% of everywhere you go, you're going to just hear foreign people that don't speak English, or maybe it's because when you visit for the first time, you're more likely to be visiting tourist spots, which are going to automatically have tourists from all over the world. Obviously, if you go to the more local spots, maybe some of the local smaller pubs and things like that, I'm guessing you're going to, see more of the locals. And if you go to other areas of England outside of London, I'm guessing that's not as much of the case, because London is probably the most, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe the most multicultural city in the world. Am I wrong on that? But anyways, let's continue.
Pretty much everywhere was represented in London, so that was really cool. And to just hear all of the different languages, because we feel like, Seattle's pretty multicultural as well, but not to the extent of London.
No way.
Just all of the languages and everyone speaking different languages in the restaurants. We'd be sitting at our table and each table was speaking a different language.
This happened every time we went to
pretty much
eat,
every time. There'd be like the table of Koreans. We could always hear them because
Korea.
We understand a tiny bit of Korean, so we were like,
we lived in Korea for 2 years, for those of you who don't know.
The Koreans, French people, Eastern European people, just everywhere. Number two,
the subways are really small.
That would be
actually shocking because our experience with subways is in Korea and Japan, and these subways are very wide. There's lots of standing room. They're also very tall, but the tube, as it's called, actually looks kind of like a tube. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's like not tall, or at least the ones that we rode on were not tall like all the way across on the ceiling, but it's kind of like
a box
curved or whatever. It's kind of like curved. Maybe not all of them are that way, but the ones that we rode on were that way. So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
It was just surprising and shocking how small the tube was, at least the tube.
Yeah, I could see that being a little bit shocking because I would think, knowing how popular the tube is in London and knowing how big of a deal it is there, I would think it would be pretty large, pretty wide. I don't know. Maybe that's just sections of it. But then again, the trains he was showing seemed to be fairly small. Trying to think of what it was like when I was in New York, the number of times it's been a long time. I used to go to New York on a pretty regular basis because I had friends up there. But I haven't been to New York City in probably like a decade or something at this point. But I feel like the subways seem to be fairly wide. But then again, I don't know because I don't really have a lot of experience with subways. But so far, that's 2 for London. That's London. I don't know. I'm sure, you go to other cities like maybe Manchester or Liverpool, some of these other bigger cities. I'm guessing they may have subways, but so I don't really know. I don't know what to expect with those subways either.
Tubes that we rode.
Speaking of tubes, that brings us to number 3. I love how English people wait patiently for people who are on the tube to get off before getting on the tube themselves. That is something after living in Korea for a couple years, you'll know that is not the case. As soon as the subway doors open and the train stops, everyone in Korea is just like pushing everybody else and getting on the subway as fast as they can. So it was nice to go to a place where everyone just stands aside and waits for those people who are on the train to get off, which is what should happen.
This was actually so shocking that the very first time we rode the tube, when the doors opened and everyone was waiting for people to get off, Grace turned to me and made that observation. She's like, oh my gosh, they're waiting for people to get off. What is this?
Madness?
Yeah, I actually have that experience from, I guess the main thing I can think of is Bangkok, Thailand. Oh my goodness. You better run because someone's going to jump inside before you get the chance. People rush into the train, they rush off, and it is a mess. I love those trains though, man. Mostly those are above ground that I have experience with in the Bangkok area, but it's the same type of thing. It's just the subway below ground, and then there's the train above ground. You still have the same type of manners, I guess you could say, the same type of expectations from both above and below ground. And I got to say, from my experience, that would be pretty shocking from the limited amount of like subway and train experiences I have. It would be pretty shocking for people to actually, the doors open and people are just patiently waiting. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, man.
Number 4, this is just a really quick one, but light switches here are different than they are in the States, and whereas in the States and Korea and other countries, you flip on to turn the light switch
You
on.
flip up, yeah.
Flip up to turn it on.
Turn it on.
And
Flip
flip down to turn it off. Here,
It's the opposite.
Yeah, from what we've seen, you flip up to turn it off and flip
What?
down to turn it on.
Number 5.
Is that everywhere? Like people watching from that's not just England, the UK in general, or Ireland. Is that a thing that's everywhere over there? Do you guys generally switch up to turn off and switch down to turn on? That would be, that's not over the top, like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do, but it's a little bit shocking, I guess. It wouldn't be something that would take me forever to get used to, really, but it is something that I can say would be like interesting. That's definitely something we don't have here. It's always you switch up, turn on, and switch down to turn off.
The other thing that we found surprising when we arrived in England
An
was
on
that
switch?
power outlets have to be switched on to use them. So it has like a little switch next to it and you have to turn it on in order to use electronic appliances. So many times we've tried to boil like hot water for tea or coffee.
Or charge my phone.
That's interesting.
And you forget to switch the power outlet on and it doesn't charge or the water doesn't boil and you're like, I kind of like that though, because as I heard someone say the other day it prevents like children from sticking things into the sockets.
Oh.
So I like that idea.
And then also, like in America, when we go on vacation or something like that, you have to run around the house and unplug everything so it doesn't.
Oh, that's true too.
Or even like every night you try to like unplug it, you know?
Yeah. Here, you just turn the outlets off. So that's actually kind of cool. It was shocking, but it's kind of cool, and we'll probably try to do that on our own house one day.
So is that something that is in pretty much most houses in England or the UK? Yeah, I've never seen that before. You know, I've never had to turn on or off an outlet to get power from it. But, you know, I was thinking like, that's genius. I was thinking for what he just said, like, you know, if you're going out of town, you always have to go around unplugging things. You know, you don't want to take the risk something happens, or, you know, a spark happens while you have something plugged in, and, you know, fire starts while you're gone, or, you know, even saving energy, or, you know, but the child thing, man, that's genius. Yes. Man, that's a great idea. I don't know why they don't do that everywhere. That's awesome. That could be awesome when you, like here, we always like, you know, you get these little plastic caps to put in the outlets, you know, if you have kids, so that way they can't go and put their fingers in and whatnot, you know, obviously. But if you could just turn it off, hey man, that's awesome. Granted, if a kid goes up and they messing with it, and then they accidentally bump the on-off switch, then perhaps that doesn't really completely stop it, but it does help. So yeah, I like that. That would be again, that's one of those things that when you say shocking, it don't mean like necessarily, oh my goodness, what do I do? It's more of like, that's really cool. It's shocking in a really cool way. So, yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I like that.
Number 6, something else that has been a little shocking for us is that tipping here is a bit different than back in the States. Whereas in the States, when you go to a restaurant, any receipt that you get is going to have a tip line where you write the tip. Here at restaurants, they don't have that. And most cafes don't even have a tip jar. And so it's been really confusing for us to figure out what we do for tipping.
I've heard also that tipping is super minimal here. Like, if at all, it's like just really minimal. So that's definitely different than America, where as a server, you're like 20% or you're a bad table sort of.
Yeah. Question though, for the English folk in the audience, when I'm at a restaurant and they give me a receipt that doesn't have a tip line or anything on it, what am I supposed to do? Do I tip? Or is that just like a no tip? Yeah, do you leave it on the table? Or is that just like we all agree that there's no tipping going on in this situation? Please let me know down in the comments so I don't make any social faux pas.
Number 7.
I think, obviously, I understand that tipping culture is completely different in the UK. Ireland as well, I think. Pretty much everywhere, just about. I'm sure there are countries that obviously tipping is expected, I'm sure, but not on the scale that it is in America. You know, I'm sure a lot of people understand at this point in America, you know, you definitely want to tip the servers. That's how they get paid. I mean, whether someone likes it or not doesn't change the fact that is how they get paid. If you literally don't tip a server, they're making like $2.13 an hour outside of that. You know, and it doesn't matter if we don't like the system. The fact is, if we go out to eat and a server waits on us, if we don't tip, they're literally working for free, basically. And so that is something that, you know, we do. I'm just used to it. Obviously, I've lived here my entire life, except when I've, you know, been overseas in Asia. So, you know, it's just something that's like nothing to me. I just expect it. You know, it doesn't, but I can understand how it can be very different for people visiting the U.S. But I must say, when I've been overseas, that is one issue I've had, is because like it's so ingrained for me to tip that I feel very awkward not tipping. It feels extremely awkward. Like, oh my goodness, man, are they looking at me weird because I'm not tipping? And even though I don't even think I've ever not tipped, even when I was overseas, I think I left a few dollars or whatever the currency, you know, the Thai baht, for example, I left some money on the table. 'Cause it's just, I don't know. I can't explain it. You know, you're used to something in your country. It's like you go outside the country. It's very hard to not continue doing what you're used to. Even if you understand on the local level is not expected. It's just one of those things. It's like, oh my goodness, man. Yeah, it's just one of those things you just feel awkward if you don't do. But, I kind of, when I do visit to the UK and Ireland, I kind of want to do what the locals do. I kind of want to not tip unless it's exceptional service. Because I feel like, let me know if I'm wrong on this, but I feel like there's an issue here because let's say a bunch of Americans go over to the UK, and which they do, and they're tourists, and most of them tip because they're used to it. Then it seems like over time the wait staff may really want to get to wait on American tourists for the simple fact they're going to basically get paid extra. And I can see how that could actually be a negative for the locals because, they're not used to tipping. It's not expected, so they don't really do it as much. And then maybe the servers aren't as in a rush to wait on them or something. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think the whole, it's just, it's just one of those things got to get used to. Anyway, let's continue.
7. Real quick, I was just going to mention that in grocery stores here in England, they generally have a much larger selection of cheese than they do back home in the States, which I'm not going to complain about. I love that.
Amazing.
I think it's just a lot more in the culture here, I guess, than it is back home. Whereas back home, you usually only have
that was very gooey cheese.
Different kinds of cheese to choose from, and
Cheddar,
not like
Gouda.
yeah, not like mozzarella or Parmesan.
Mozzarella, yeah.
Not like specialty cheeses. Here you'll have like many different types.
In the regular grocery store?
There'll be different ages as well.
Number 8.
So they have those cheeses in the grocery store? Because like here it's like, generally speaking, they're right. Like you have a very small selection of cheeses. I mean, generally speaking, it's like, I don't know. Well, not much. I can't really say how big it is. It just depends on the grocery store. But, I can understand, like, if we go to a specialty market, you might find a good assortment of cheeses. But in the regular grocery store, it's not really the case. I wish I loved cheese. I so wish I loved cheese, but I don't. I'm not a cheese connoisseur. I enjoy some cheese on pizza or a little bit of Parmesan on some pasta or something like that. But generally speaking, if I get a burger, I don't put cheese on it. If I get most sandwiches, I don't add cheese. I'm just not really a cheese person. It's something that growing up, I never liked. For example, everybody in my family always liked mac and cheese or macaroni and cheese. And I don't like, and I don't eat cheese by itself. I don't know. Like I've done a video on cheese before, and I definitely is one thing that I want to explore when I do visit the UK is I definitely want to explore your cheese because I've heard it's really good. Not that I can't get good cheese here. I can go and I can get cheese from a local farm and whatnot that produces supposedly good cheese, but I've never been a cheese person. But anyways, let's continue.
Probably, but we don't know which direction to look when we cross the road. And this is for a couple of reasons.
Ooh.
1, people here drive on the left side of the road, and so that's confusing. But 2, there are also a ton of one-way streets here, both in London and in the villages that we've been in and towns. Lots of one-way streets that aren't obvious one-way streets. And so when we cross, it is so confusing to know
which way to look.
And so
it's quite dangerous, actually.
Yeah.
Like I am in fear of being struck by an automobile. That sounded ridiculous.
That was it. Yeah. We're working on our English accent.
That wasn't an English accent. That was just me.
Sounding like an English person.
In London, though, there is a nice, I think it's so polite and courteous how they put on the ground, like, look this way.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Before crossing the street, there's like paint.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Look left.
Yes.
Look right. Or look both ways. And so I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, oh.
That was really good.
These English folk have our back.
They know we're stupid.
They know we're stupid. No, but that's one thing that I've like. It's not like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. It's nothing like that. But it is something that I've already expected would definitely be a culture shock. You drive on the left versus the right. Generally speaking, when you're used to, right side driving, I can imagine trying to cross. You're used to look in the opposite direction, because here's the thing. When you generally cross the road, you're crossing a certain direction that you always are used to, like, looking. For us, that would be left. Yeah, we learned left because you always look for that direction first. You know what I mean? So not that it's going to be crazy. Oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. But that is pretty cool that they have the look this way print on the roads. That's pretty cool, man.
Number 9. This is more of a question, but it was also a very big culture shock.
I know that.
Why are there 2 separate spigots?
Hot and cold.
For hot and cold water. This, like, somebody please explain. I don't understand this.
It's probably just
like,
from.
It's out. Do you want to wash your hands in freezing cold water?
Back in the day.
Any of the germs? I don't know if that's correct, but whatever. That's what I think. Or do you want to scald yourself so that you can't even feel, and then you have to be fed by your husband for the next few days? Like,
that is interesting.
Choose.
It is very confusing, and this is not just something we've seen in homes, but we've seen it in museums, in churches, in cafes, and restaurants.
Like everywhere in the restroom,
Yeah.
it's 2 separate.
2 separate spigots, and you get scalding hot water, or you get
ice
freezing cold water.
And so, like, what I was doing, I know this
You
is
just stand up and
ridiculous,
go,
but yeah, I was just
together.
like, throwing them together and like. Somebody explain, because somebody's got an explanation for why this is better, I'm sure.
Explain.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's necessarily better. I think as time has gone on, I think they've probably emerged into the single faucet thing. At least when I originally heard about that a while back on, I forgot what video that was, but I found out you guys in a lot of cases had 2 faucets like that for hot and cold. And I was told by a lot of people in the comments of that video that that's not really the case so much anymore. Obviously that exists, but a lot of the newer homes, have faucets that merge. And I think it's just simply, it's just left over from the way plumbing used to be in the UK. And I think as time's gone on, I think they probably moved into the single faucet in a lot of cases, at least from what I gather from the comment section, at least. But yeah, I got to admit that would be very, I don't want to say tricky, but it's like you're used to washing your hands with, warm water in America. I mean, warm or hot water does a better job of, disinfecting or removing soap even. Soap comes off easier in warm water. And so that would be a little annoying, I guess, if you're not used to it. But if you're used to it, it's just another day, right? I mean, so it just depends on where you're from. But yeah, let's continue.
It's not.
Number 10. It was shocking to us how much people jaywalk here.
Oh.
We had been warned by friends that, hey, just so you know, in London, it's okay to jaywalk. But when we came here, it was just surprising to see how frequently everyone jaywalks. Literally, everyone jaywalks all the time. Yeah, it's constant jaywalking. And we're coming from Seattle, which is, I think, in the United States, we are famous for being a city that no one jaywalks in. So it was really shocking to come to England and no one, it's just like
constant jaywalking.
Look, run. Look, run.
Which makes you feel extremely stressed out as foreigners because we don't know which way to look. So we're like, oh, we can't just wait for this light, which is gonna last forever. We should jaywalk, but then we don't know which direction the cars are coming from. So if we jaywalk, we might die. So it's kind of like,
and then you know who the foreigners are because they're the ones that are waiting for the light.
Oh.
Yeah, that would be me. I would just wait for the light, probably.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you've ever visited England, do drop a comment down below and let us know what culture shocks shocked you. I'd love to hear what your experience visiting this country was like.
That was cool, man. I thought they put some interesting things in this list. A few of these weren't new to me, like the faucets, but some of them are definitely new to me. Crossing the road, I've talked about this already, but I can see why it's scary, but I'm not really sure why I wouldn't know which direction the cars are coming from because you guys drive on the left, right? I mean, there is no driving on the right. Now, granted, in a one-way street, perhaps you're like, okay, if you're not seeing any cars, but if you're not seeing any cars, then you're like, well, I can go anyway. So I don't know. I think although a cultural shock, I think it would be one of those things that would, just become pretty normal pretty quickly. But overall, guys, I really like this. I'm really surprised on the international thing. I don't know if that's just a London thing. I think it may be, but please let me know. Because they're like literally, I don't know if they're exaggerating, but literally like 90% of the languages they were hearing weren't English, which in London or in the UK anywhere would be a very shocking thing to say the least. And the tube band being so skinny, that I wouldn't expect. I would not expect that. I would expect the tube to be very, now granted, it is called a tube. So, I mean, tubes, so I guess it makes sense, but it's just so well known. I would think it would be just really massive. But maybe that's not the case. And yeah, I mean, I've already talked about all these for the most part, but I thought this was a good list. So anyways, guys, thank you for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Until next time, guys, peace.